Welcome to Perma-Chink Systems webinar on lock home sealants and chinkings. My name is Kevin, and I'll be your presenter today. In this webinar, we will be discussing sealing the gaps that let air and water and pests into the house, whether it's a chinked or chinkless style home, squared or rectangular logs or round logs, chinkless style homes, they all benefit from being sealed with chinking. If you see light coming through the gaps in your walls, there's a good chance that your building needs to be chinked. We have a sealant called Energy Seal that's good in the chinkless style homes after the logs have expanded or contracted or settled, and you find that you get air or water through them anyway, even though they were intended to be chinkless. It's best used in the 3/4 inch or smaller gaps. Chinking came from the word chink. If you've ever heard the term a chink in your armor, a chink in your armor meant a gap in your armor. Chinking is anything used to close the fissure or gap. As you can see here in the picture, they used to use just about anything that they could get their hands on to fill a chink gap back before synthetic chinking or even the traditional mortar was used. Perma-Chink and Energy Seal eliminate air and water infiltration. They remain flexible. They're suitable for all climates, whether it's an extremely hot climate or an extremely cold climate. Perma-Chink and Energy Seal are both suitable for exterior and interior walls. And we're going to talk a little bit about how the chinking works. Chinking needs a 2-point adhesion in order to work properly. The way you get that 2-point adhesion is to put the proper backer rod behind it and to make sure that you chink at about 3/8 of an inch as your width of your chinking. As you can see in this picture here, there are a couple of ways that chinking can fail. You can have adhesion failure. Adhesive failure can happen if you're chinking in extremely hot weather. Adhesive failure usually doesn't happen. Cohesive failure can happen when you don't use the proper backer rod behind your chinking. Sometimes when your logs expand or contract or move away from each other, having that 3-point adhesion instead of the 2-point adhesion can cause the chinking to tear. Substrate failure can happen when you've chinked on dirty or UV damaged wood. That usually happens when you haven't prepared your wood properly before chinking. Again, chinking and all of the other sealants that we have, they must be applied to about 3/8 of an inch thick, and when they cure, they'll shrink down to about 1/4 of an inch. So you can see this picture has the proper backer rod behind it, and you've got the 2-point adhesion between the top and the bottom piece of wood. When chinking compound has the proper backer rod behind it and you've got that 2-point adhesion, when your logs move apart from each other or expand, it will allow the chinking to be able to stretch quite a bit and also contract when your logs settle and move closer together. But again, if you did not have that 2-point adhesion, you'd have some sort of failure occur. Not all log homes have perfect straight chinking gaps. Sometimes you need different types of backing material. Sometimes you need more than one kind or more than one size. You see here he's using grip strip and he's cutting backer rod in half and using whatever he can to fill that gap. When chinking a gap that's over 3/4 of an inch, you'll probably want to stick with the grip strip as the backer rod has a tendency to twist and turn. When using grip strip, you'll want to push it in firmly so that it sits flush in between the 2 round logs. You want to make sure that you push it in firm enough to where it can stay there on its own when you move your hands away. Grip strip is generally best used in the gaps that are 3/4 inch or higher, and it works a little bit better on round logs. When you're using the grip strip, it comes in 4-foot pieces. Wherever the two 4-foot pieces meet, you'll want to cover that gap with cheap brown waterproof masking tape so that a dimple won't occur in the chinking or energy seal when it cures. You can also use galvanized staples or nails to tack in the chinking. You'll want to make sure that your nails or whatever you use are protected from rusting. You can also use beads of energy seal or Perma-Chink to tack in your backer rod or grip strip. Expanded polystyrene or beadboard. The foil-faced EPS foam is good in the larger gaps. You'll want to make sure that you cut it at an angle so that it fits in properly. You always want to chink or seal against the foil-based side. You never want to use anything with a pink or a blue surface. That can cause blistering or outgassing in the chinking. Some manufacturers refer to their backing material as spline or spline board. Here you can see RMAX, a type of board made of polyisocyanurate foam. It might be a good idea where those pieces meet each other to put some cheap brown masking tape so you don't get dimples in your Perma-Chink. Here's a list. If you want to take the time, I'll leave this up for a minute. You can write down some of the approved backing materials for use with Perma-Chink or Energy Seal. There's grip strip or backer rod. There's polyiso or RMAX. You can find that at roofing supply outlets or hardware stores. You've got foil-lined EPS board, and you can use masking tape over bare wood if the chinking joint isn't deep enough for proper backing material. Waterproof tape works the best. You can also use any materials that are supplied by your log home manufacturer. At Perma-Chink, we sell bulk loading applicator guns. Those are the most economical way for a homeowner that's using a 5-gallon pail or more of chinking or energy seal to apply their sealants. They're best used in conjunction with a follow plate. We also have several different custom spatulas and knives to use to trowel out the chinking or energy seal. Here you can see the bulk loading applicator gun. We've taken the cap off, put the follow plate into the 5-gallon pail, and attached the gun to the top of the follow plate to show you how easy it is to just load your bulk loading gun through that follow plate. If you don't use a follow plate, you can often spend a lot of time cleaning the threads of your gun off before putting your cap on. I really wouldn't do a job that required a pail or more of the Perma-Chink or Energy Seal without a bulk loading gun and a follow plate. We also carry Perma-Chink and Energy Seal and most of our other sealants in convenient 11-ounce and 30-ounce tubes. We have the ratchet guns. This is a Kodiak M2 chink pump, which a lot of contractors and people who chink professionally will use. If you've got larger chink gaps, they may take more than one bead of Perma-Chink to fill. If you're going to go with more than one bead, you want to make sure that the beads are as close together as possible. If you trap air in behind the Perma-Chink, that can lead to bubbling. When chinking, you'll want to dry trowel the chinking first for proper adhesion. You want to run a pass against the top of the chink joint to make sure there's good adhesion between the chink joint and the wood, and then you'll want to go down and run another pass on the bottom of the chink joint for good adhesion. Then run one pass through the middle, and then if you want to, you can spray a light mist of water on the Perma-Chink and tool it out smoother.